At the beginning of the film, we see a girl running through the jungle to save her life in a very injured state. She looks back and sees that her pursuer is getting closer, a huge brute, who is breaking everything in front of him. She continues her escape, but does not get very far, because soon the brute appears and captures her, this guy being a cannibal. The size of this cannibal is very large. He holds the woman and covers her entire face with just one hand. He is so strong that he crushes the girl's skull with one hand, which is why he was given the name Crusher. Then, this man, Crusher, takes the dead body to his home, which was in the middle of the jungle. His older brother was also at home, comfortably watching TV at that moment. Crusher takes the dead body outside and begins to chop it into pieces. Then we see on TV where a recording of the same girl was being shown, in which Crusher was injuring the young girl he was chopping up. In fact, these people were torturing that girl, but somehow, the girl managed to escape captivity. But unfortunately, she was kidnapped again and brutally killed and literally turned into food for the cannibals. After this, we see a group that kidnaps the daughter of a rich man and takes her away. The girl was locked in the trunk of a car. The kidnappers included a thug and his partner, Josh, and his sister Sarah. The young siblings were not kidnappers. They were doing all of this with these thugs out of necessity. Nobody knew where all these people were going, only one thug knew, but he didn't tell anyone. Anyway, these people stop at a gas station. The thug is sitting in the car while his partner goes out to pump gas. After a while, Sarah and her brother go inside the store. The back door was open. Now, Josh's heart was telling him to run, but he didn't feel good about leaving his sister here. An old man was fueling his truck in front of their car. Just then, a sheriff came and started talking to that man, which made the hearts of those two thugs race. The thug even pulled out his gun when Sarah and her brother also came out. Then, the sheriff started talking to both of them, and seeing this, the two thugs became even more worried. They began to fear that the sheriff might suspect them. But Sarah distracted him by conversing with the sheriff. After that, they moved forward again, but on the way, the thugs began to argue among themselves. Then, suddenly, a large deer appeared in front of them, and the car couldn't stop in time, crashing directly into the deer. The three of them managed to escape, but the thug got trapped, and the poor deer died, its bones puncturing the thug's chest. All three were trying to move the deer from the front, but the deer was not moving at all, which was causing problems for the thug. But the problem changed for him when the deer regained consciousness and started to fight back. The thug could not bear the pain and shot directly in the deer's head, but even so, the man would not survive. Then, the thug's partner took the gun from him and asked where they should go, saying he should say it. But the thug still wasn't saying, so out of anger, his partner shot him in the head and exploded his head. Now, their plan ended with the thug. They didn't know what to do next, and the car couldn't move either, so now they had to proceed on foot. They also couldn't figure out whether to go forward or go back to the gas station, but there was also the kidnapped girl there. They were thinking about what to do with her. They were already in this mess when suddenly a truck came up, in which there was a man. Seeing their condition, he said that two of them could go with him, that they would receive help after going to the gas station. But the other thug had a different plan. He thought, why should two go when only three of us can? Thinking this, the thug shot that man, causing the poor man to fall down. Even though he wanted to help, the thug wanted to shoot again, but then Josh stopped him. Taking advantage of this situation, the man from the truck fled. Now the heart of that thug was telling him to kill Josh too, but he couldn't do that in front of Sarah. Now, they had no other choice. After retrieving the kidnapped girl, they began to move through the forest, but Clyde was watching them. His mouth started to water at the sight of the people, and he had food for many weeks ahead, which he didn't want to lose. He goes straight home to get Crusher, who was sitting sadly because he said his new friend, the one he killed, also left him and fled to save his life. His brother says that new friends have arrived, so he grabs the handcuffs and goes away. While driving the truck, the man who tried to help the young ones dies because he was shot, and he had lost a lot of blood. As soon as his car stopped next to it, the old man saw him and immediately called the sheriff. Seeing this, the sheriff realized that the situation was serious because he had been shot. Just then, news came over the radio that 4 kidnappers were fleeing after kidnapping a girl. Remembering the appearance of those 4's car, the sheriff was certain that they were the same 4 people he had seen that morning. The sheriff then called more officers and then moved to check. Meanwhile, Josh was taking care of the kidnapped girl, whose name was Ash, and Crusher was also following them. The thug was tired of all this, so he stopped the group with the intention of killing Sarah's brother. But before he could shoot, Clyde shot at him and not anyone else. He soon introduced himself to the young ones. As soon as he arrived, Sarah started acting as if they were victims, saying that he was kidnapping them and taking them away. She asks him to save them and get them out of there, but this kind of drama doesn't work with Clyde. Seeing the disgrace to the man, Josh approaches the young woman, but before he could say anything, Clyde silenced him by hitting him on the head with the butt of his gun. He ties both siblings up and handcuffs them, then takes them back to the vehicle. They were surprised by why he was bringing them to the car. In fact, Clyde wanted the deer's head, wondering how he could leave such delicious food behind. And he had left Ash so that Crusher could make friends with her, but Crusher knocks her out with just one blow. On the other side, Clyde was waiting for the brothers to cut off and pull the head from the dead animal, but when it was time to take the head with them, Josh asked if he didn't want meat, to which Clyde replied that we don't eat animals. Josh thought he might be a vegetarian who eats vegetables, but he didn't hear him properly saying that he doesn't eat animal meat. In other words, they were cannibals who eat humans. By then, Crusher had arrived home with Ash, and, after carefully smelling her, he leaves. So we know Ash was pretending to be unconscious, but while running to save her life, she actually faints after colliding with some things. Meanwhile, Clyde brings both, and upon seeing Crusher, their condition worsens. He sets the deer's head aside and tells Ash to smile, which she does. Meanwhile, the sheriff arrives at the thug's vehicle and finds the scene of the headless animal strange, and what was once an accident with an animal is now a murder scene. To understand what was happening, the sheriff had to follow the trail of blood that fell from the deer's head. On the other hand, Sarah makes a proposal to Clyde that they would earn a lot of money kidnapping the girl, so they offer half, in exchange for him letting them go. But money doesn't matter to Clyde. He offers lemonade for Sarah to drink, but she refuses to drink, saying she doesn't accept drinks from him. Then Clyde accepts her choice and extends his hand for a formal handshake. Sarah feels that now he has come into the right path and they should both talk peacefully. But upon shaking hands, Clyde pulls his hand and slams her face into the table, and she keeps staring at this. Sarah was afraid there was poison in the lemonade, but then thinks that if he didn't want to kill her, he would have killed her in the jungle. So she agrees to drink, but says he is also like those people who kill mercilessly. Clyde says they are not like that, as killing takes time, and nobody kills so brutally. But in their case, since they are experienced, which means killing after making others suffer a lot. He talks about how they crush pieces with one hand, and then cook and eat them with pleasure. Clyde points the gun at her, forcing her to drink all the lemonade without saying anything. Then, leaving the gun aside, Clyde occupies himself with some work. Then Sarah takes the gun to shoot him, but the gun was out of ammo. Here, Sarah discovers that there was no poison in the lemonade, but it was an anesthetic. As soon as Sarah became unconscious, Clyde approached Ash to torture her, who was tied to the chair. She was still pretending to be unconscious, so Clyde broke the lock and removed the cloth from her mouth. Now we can see her face for the first time. Meanwhile, Crusher knocks Josh out with a single blow. Clyde tells Crusher to put Ash in his storage and lock her up, so Crusher sniffs her but takes her anyway. Then, he hangs Sarah there so that Clyde can cut her. Clyde puts the hood over the girl's head and starts recording everything so he can enjoy watching this scene later. Meanwhile, Crusher takes Josh inside and ties him to the chair. Clyde brings Sarah back to consciousness and begins to injure her in front of the camera. Hearing her scream, Ash looks around and sees that she needs to cut the rope from her hands with the deer's horn. Clyde cut Sarah a bit and came to her brother with the camera. Josh asks where his sister is, then Clyde says she is hanging outside. Meanwhile, Ash cuts the ropes from her hands and also frees herself from the shackles on her legs. Inside, Clyde also began to attack Josh. He starts making cuts on parts of his body. Ash had two options. First, she should flee. Second, she should do something. After fleeing, she goes in, grabs a shotgun, loads it, and puts 2 shells in her pocket. Clyde was burning the wounds on Josh with fire, so his blood wouldn't spill. Then Ash comes in, and as soon as she arrives, she shoots Crusher first. Then she points Clyde under the gun and frees Josh. After that, She tells Josh to handcuff Clyde since she didn't want to kill her enemy yet because he would lead her down the road. Josh brought his sister down and saw that she was still alive. He treated Sarah, and then they began to walk after Clyde. Although both were having difficulty walking, they had no other option but to do so. Ash had the gun aimed at all three of them because those two were not her friends. They were her kidnappers. All three were the same to her, but Clyde was a huge threat. As they walked, Clyde caught Josh. The young man, knowing about his situation, tells Ash to shoot, but when she didn't, Clyde broke his neck and killed the guy. Ash still wasn't shooting, so Sarah pulled the gun from her hand and fired directly at Clyde. Now that the gun was in Sarah's hands, Ash had become a prisoner again. She had Ash under the gun's aim. Then, someone shot Sarah and blew her head off, and that was the sheriff. The sheriff thought Sarah would kill Ash. That's why he killed her. The sheriff interrogates Ash a bit, then tells her to take him to their house, and he will only leave after getting to the root of the problem. But upon reaching the house, he saw that Crusher was not there. Ash knew they were done for now. She wanted to flee. However, the sheriff handcuffed her and tied her to the chair. After that, he leaves, and suddenly Crusher smashes the sheriff's face with one hand. After that, he starts cutting him. Luckily, Ash frees herself from the handcuffs. Crusher cuts off the sheriff's hands and legs while Ash tries to escape with a large knife. Then Clyde enters and threatens her with a gun, but Ash quickly drives the knife into his forehead, and before dying, he screams and calls for Crusher. When Crusher arrives, Ash shoots at him again. Then, she took 2 or 3 bullets and ran outside, but Crusher was also behind her. The good part was that Crusher had weakened a little after being shot and was walking slowly. Taking advantage of this, Ash reaches the road where the police had also arrived. But before reaching the road, she challenges Crusher by looking into his eyes. She said she would go to the police, but only after killing him. Crusher ignored the threat and turned away. Then Ash also left with the police. When the police arrived at that house at night, Crusher was watching them from a distance. Then he turned and went into the forest. In other words, the series of deaths was about to begin again, because although his brother was dead, now Crusher alone would kill everyone and also avenge his brother.